We've spent the last 2 years being both inspired, annoyed, or just muting it altogether, this conversation around AI. That was 125 hours worth of vibe coding from me.
You're offloading the labor of like making the thing, but you're also offloading your learning or sacrificing that for productivity.
It looks like 2 developers have been in here for 2 years and they didn't clean up after themselves.
I wanted to start another project from ground zero.
Expedites some paths that I probably would go down eventually, but saves a lot of time. I still feel like I'm learning when doing those exercises.
Yeah, that was my goal when I was working on that initial vibe coded project, was like, how can I frame this up so someone that's not as technical?
On this episode, we're going to take a peek behind the curtain at my company, Crema. We're talking to Ross Brown and Deric Mendez, 2 senior software engineers, senior developers here at Crema. And we talk about AI, right? This thing that is coming for all the engineers. It's coming for our jobs. It's coming to take over the world. And supposedly engineers are the first ones to go. So how are we leaning in? Where are we seeing there's value? And how long did it take us to realize that value exists? From folks that are early adopters to those that were like, you know what? I wasn't sure at first, but maybe today I see a little bit more opportunity. I think you're really going to enjoy this conversation. Let's jump right in. It's 2026. Just only a few weeks in. We've spent the last 2 years being both inspired, annoyed, or just muting it altogether, this conversation around AI. And I really want to specifically camp around, man, I wish we would have branded it as something that you can take an LLM model, of which there are many, and you can plug it into an IDE, or you can use a web-based prompt engine and say, make me a thing. There's different levels of that, but I really want to get I know we're all kind of at different levels of like our intrigue or our confidence in it. What's your experience so far though, playing with it? What have you done in this, I'm putting big air quotes around it, but vibe coding world? Ross, why don't you go first?
Oh, great.
That we did talk earlier about the angel and the demon.
Right.
We'll figure out who's who on the sides of the shoulder here.
Yeah, I've used it like specifically Claude, was using Sonnet and using Opus now within Cursor because you had an initiative for us to try that out. And prior to that, I was like, I don't know about this stuff.
These newfangled kids.
Yeah,
toys.
and I still don't, I guess, at
Yeah, that's
some
fair.
point. But
Okay.
it's, I've like done everything from very targeted sort of, here are some specs, build this out, and then kind of guide it along, to larger scope projects within a project with the planning mode.
Yep.
To varying levels of success, but I think it's obviously gotten better. I haven't had a whole lot of success in like entirely setting up an entire new application from start to finish, because there's like that. I mean, that's hard for anybody to do and get right, and there's a lot of decisions and assumptions that are put in that it may be that it's setting it up great, but I don't have an understanding of one piece, and that's where it all breaks down in me trying to continue to put it together. But so some production work, some just like playing around side projects and stuff like that.
Out of curiosity, you talked about the planning mode. So for those who don't know, if you're using Cursor, which is an IDE, it's a clone of VS Code.
Yep.
So
For better
if you're
or for worse.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Some people love that idea. What was your IDE before? What were you using before?
VS Code,
VS Code,
or
okay.
Zed. Or
Zed, I don't know Zed. Okay.
It's just like
another one.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's preferences. I mean, developers have preferences of like, their environment, their setup, their colors, their syntax, everything that they like. So I think that it's interesting because they did decide to kind of fork off of a very popular IDE to make that. But then if you don't know, you can prompt with it. So that's using any number of LLMs. You're talking about you use Claude Sonnet, now you're using Opus. I've tried it with Gemini. 4. I don't remember whatever the newest Gemini was that was actually like winning all these, tests and stuff. And I had good experiences, but to the same end, my favorite tool was the planning tool, because I actually really enjoyed how it was like, well, help me think through what I might want to consider doing. And it's like, oh yeah, I hadn't even really thought about doing that. Now, whether or not I wouldn't be personally, because I'm not a developer. You are. So you know what you would go do if you wanted to even take those instructions and turn them into tickets and then go actually execute on them. Me, on the other hand, I'm like, sweet, sounds
Click
good.
build.
Go. And oh, by the way, don't bother me. Just keep going. Like, I don't want to review anything. So we're definitely experiencing it, working with it different ways. Have you done much testing with it? I'm curious on using the LLM model to kind of test or debug something that you're running into problems.
Debugging, yes. Not test, like automated testing, no.
Okay. I know Kenneth on our team has done that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't, well, debugging has been like successful in some ways. I don't know. I think there is like now there's a browser, built-in browser to Cursor, and I don't know what sort of hooks it has into that. I imagine a lot, but I haven't gone that far as to like, why does it look like this, and then have it solved. But a lot of the things that I run into, at least on the project that I'm working on, is probably a lot of commonly known things that it has enough context and enough training on that material to know that like, oh, look at this, you know?
Yeah.
But it is kind of like a nice debug buddy, because I feel insane when I do this, but I'm like, how can we figure this out? And,
I'm still here.
Yeah.
Don't replace me yet.
And, it's like, very kind to me. It's like, I need you to copy and paste the output of this console, until it can do that itself. But, it's a lot of like copying, pasting, like it putting in logs in the right spot, and then, just figuring out, where the issue is. But it's helpful because it expedites some paths that I probably would go down eventually, but saves a lot of time in that. And I still feel like I'm learning when doing those exercises.
Yeah. Good. Deric, what about you? I know you and I talked pretty early on when I was kind of just jumping into the deep end and going like, oh, let's see how far I can get, and sharing some videos with you and some resources. And I think you were one of the first to jump into Cursor to go like, well, I'm in between a project. I'll try it. What's been your experience so far?
I kind of phased into it a little bit because VS Code had some integrations where you can kind of prompt with it and give it some context about your code, and did some of that up to that point. But I when you gave me that vibe coded code,
the spaghetti
handed
code,
it over.
Yeah, you were like, "Can I start over?" You're like, for sure. That was 125 hours worth of vibe coding from me beforehand. You were like, "This looks like." What did you say? I've told people this. You told me it looks like 2 developers have been in here for 2 years and they didn't clean up after themselves.
Yeah, just kept doing their own
or
thing.
Agree on anything.
Or agree on anything. There's a lot of like orphaned code and spaghetti stuff. Yeah.
But from that scenario though, one interesting part that drew me to this was just prompting like, what is this project doing? And it gave me a nice breakdown, README. It gave me, I think I sent you that. It gave me I was like, put this into stories, because I was wanting to pull away from that because it was obviously a mess. Yep. And I wanted to start another project from ground zero. So it helped me give me that kind of context, which was great. So that's one that drew me to it. I was like, okay, there's something here that it can generate these documents from the code base. Yeah. And I don't have to go find and just sift through all the files that it created to see what it really needed for it. So
one of the things that you and I talked about, and Ross, you and I have mentioned this as well, I think in dev chats you guys have talked about this, is like this idea of a context window. The one that challenges is that at a certain point a code base gets big, and so there's like a lot of tokens that it has to use up, which is just a lot of words, right? And what each of the new models is like promising is larger and larger context windows. Like I can understand thousands of lines of code. I can understand millions of lines of code. I can understand your entire code base, and remember what I did so that I don't end up orphaning something or starting over or, creating some path that isn't clear. Just recently, so take this for like it's 2 days old news. There's a open source model coming out of China, which is kind of the battle right now of who's going to build the best models. And China's point of view is to build open source models. That's kind of like, that's their approach towards the race. And one of them is promising at least basically an infinite context window. I don't know how they technically do that, but it's basically says like, it will remember anything and everything it's ever done or everything it's ever seen. It's like a photographic memory for an AI that then can go, oh, well, it's not hard for me to go, I know what I would do next because I remember all the things. I'm curious to see if that will be helpful or if that'll just even make things even more over-engineered than they currently do.
It's like that it seems like a concern to me of like, if you need a huge context to understand what something is doing, I think that kind of goes against engineering principles of keeping things smaller and understandable and testable.
Yeah.
And maybe that doesn't scale to like, it's true for the type of work we do day to day, but maybe doesn't scale to larger models of medical science or whatever. But yeah, it feels kind of antithetical to that. But I can imagine it being good for summarizing something like you're saying. What does this do? And what are some pitfalls that this application might run into? And just did an interesting thing too with our current project where I kind of pointed it at some specific files that I knew had some things going on. I was just like, what are some patterns that we're reusing here? Document them as architectural decision records, and then make an agents markdown to put in, just kind of pointing at these principles. So I think it's good to capture things and recognize patterns that you're doing already, and then maybe being an agent to enforce those later on.
So you're doing that. And we've talked about this, Deric. You're doing that through basically saving that into like a markdown instructions.
Yeah. Just files. And we already had, architectural decision records in our repository that we were writing. So that seemed like a natural place for the output of some of those.
Sure.
And then just having a single entry point for, to point something out where you're like, build this new feature, also read this first sort of deal.
Because I want you to build it this way. We have this kind of rule set that we're approaching. Here's some other things to consider. Which honestly, for me, was a breakthrough in understanding that I needed to give it better instructions, not just being like, well, no, you got it wrong. Keep going. And it's like, instead being like, no, specifically, this is what I'm asking you to do. And also don't do this, this, and this. And also if you can if you can keep us looking at this design file or this design system that I have, or if there's a syntax, if I'm that goes deeper than I'm able to do, like a way of coding that I would preference, or a library I want to stick with. I have freedom in that.
That was my goal when I was working on that initial vibe coded project, was like, how can I frame this up so someone that's not as technical, can prompt for their features and it'll align to.
And it did, honestly, because I used that.
Oh, that's right. You pulled it in.
For those that might be are non-technical, so we have a lot of product folks that are listening to this that maybe don't have a engineering background. And one of the things that I have told people is kind of like, if you think through kind of a vibe coding path, a viable vibe coding path is obviously you could have, if you have an engineering team, there's one thing to say like, I want my engineering team to use it to help them to be more efficient or to speed up or to find things quicker or, that kind of stuff. That's where you all are utilizing it. Myself, from a UX and product background, I went first into just make me the first prototype of the thing. But then it got to a diminishing returns because it was really, really impressive until it was very, very annoying because it kept breaking itself. That's that context window. It got too big. Then I handed it off to you and you're like, can I start over? And I was like, okay, yeah. But what it did help though, is that we now had to, something to look at that was more than just a conceptual idea. It was actually a functional prototype. And I think that actually was helpful to kind of at least go, I like what it started to do here, but if I had my preference, I actually would have done it a different way. I just never could get it there. And so then we had those conversations. Then from there, so I was working thinking tool wise, I was working in V0. It's a web-based vibe tool. So that's comparable like V0, Lovable, Replit, what else? Bolt, those kind of the big ones. Then I synced that with GitHub, which for me, I don't even know how to do version control. That was the thing. I was like, can you teach me version control? Because I haven't used Git in a long time, which then I was like embarrassed by it. But then you pulled it down. You pulled down that code library, that code base, and you said, okay, here's what I can or can't do with it. But you pulled it into Cursor and started working with Cursor. Then you really figured out that the markdown files helped you to kind of structure it the way you wanted. Then we were kind of able to actually do more kind of traditional, like you committing back up to that environment. Then I could pull down and work from it, which actually felt now like we're in a true, more engineering-esque approach.
Yeah, and that was my goal, was to set it up to where you could, but I found out, oh, this is great for just even engineers, developers,
Yeah.
you know, having those documents created, which I think that's the term, spec-driven development. I've seen that floating around.
Cool.
And there's a lot of good content on that if anyone wants to get into that. But
okay, so have you guys heard of this idea of orchestration? I mean, orchestration.
Yes.
Like, yes.
But maybe not in,
in a different context. Okay, so there's a theory, and of course, everybody's promising the promise of agents. I'll be honest. I've talked to like a ton of really high-level technology executives across large companies. They all, if you were to look at their PRs, like press releases out in the world, they're all like saying that they built some agentic thing that it's literally like 2 folks that built a thing and nobody uses it, right? It's purely just press. But if you ask them, they're like not actually using agents practically on a day-to-day basis. But where I started using agents was, so Cursor is moving this direction, but there's another IDE called Anti-Gravity from Google. It's also a VS clone, or VS Code clone. But its whole differentiation is that you have basically, imagine that you have like, I don't know, 2 to 10 IDEs open at the same time. And they're each a different agent running.
Mm-hmm.
They can be looking at the same code base, but basically you give them a set of instructions and you kind of step away and then you go back over to the other agent and you kind of go, okay, keep going. And then you go over to that. And it's this orchestration of agents where you're kind of sitting there going, nope, you keep going on that feature. You keep going on this thing. We're debugging this one. This guy's doing something else. And they're all kind of like, it'd be like a development team in some ways working across, but you're orchestrating that. I'll be honest, I would give it like a C- on my results, but conceptually the idea is interesting.
Yeah, sounds like stepping into the management role that I've never wanted to be in.
It's like fair. That's a good
sounds
point.
like the 7 Bobs or whatever from Office.
right. I work with the people. Yeah. No, that's a good. Yeah, Ross, you calling that out, I think, is important because one of the tensions that you had, you were honest about this. Is like, this is my craft, right? And so how is this moment in time affecting you when you think of vibe coding and its place in our craft?
I'm a little less hung up on it now than I was, just because I'm viewing it more as a tool.
Yeah,
you know. But I do like to extrapolate my concerns out into the wider basis, because as we know, we're not the only industry or whatever using this technology. And I think we were talking about this the other day, but when you have it construct something for you or build something for you, and even when you're using planning mode and you're asking it to think about things, sorry, air quotes, for you, that you're offloading the labor of like making the thing, number one, but you're also offloading your learning or really sacrificing that for productivity. And I think my concern grows where more and more industries and people are doing that, you know, and what that leaves us with as humanity. Yeah.
Oh, it's purposelessness, right? I mean, like this is, I completely agree.
And it's, people need something to do all day too.
Leisure doesn't seem to make the best people in the world. Just like pure leisure.
Yeah. Heard.
Not to get too technical, haven't we been chasing dependencies since we've been in this space? Like, we're always bringing in dependencies that's taking away time.
Right.
And taking away, I don't have to code a date library. I don't have to worry about that now.
Interesting.
And
that's where you see it as a tool. It's just like another dependency.
Yeah. And it can be. I think also another thing that's helped me kind of reconcile my conflicts with it is that it's a tool for production, and then you own the thing, or you whatever. You have the thing that you produced at the end of it, and there's no longer any dependencies once you produce something with it. But if we start building systems that are reliant on an actively running model or a space for that to run in, which I think a lot of what the purveyors and providers of that space is pushing towards.
Of course, that's where
don't
they
even
make their
write
money,
code anymore. Right. Just send it off, and then that's really like completely replacing a craft and a school of thought and just the purpose of building things in a way. But that's like, at least a year down the road.
Well, actually, I think it's further out. So, I mean, some of the things that they were just promised that 2027 was going to be the year that like there would be literally no white collar jobs. Like that was a year and a half ago where there's Anthropic wrote a paper about this. And everybody was like, oh my gosh, if that's true, what is the world going to do? And we were all promised that this was the industry to get it, like that kind of thing. Now they've basically said like at the soonest you're talking like 34, which isn't really that far away. But like what they're doing is they're pushing it out going, it's way more complicated than we think. Like the work that we do, because let's be honest, there's lots of software in the world, but getting people to use any of that software, that's half the battle itself. And, actually, getting humans to change is a slower process than like having a tool that changes things fast. But I mean, it has been a shock to at least our system here at Crema or across our industry of like, what are the long tail effects and are we past the event horizon? Like,
yeah, for sure. And I don't know how much stock I put in like a number put out by a company that is in charge of making these things. Because even if they say it's really far out, like there are certain speed bumps that could be in place that maybe aren't in place. It's like I think we can choose our own demise, or destiny. Excuse me.
Or demise or destiny.
As far as like and how we handle it, and that could be a good thing or a bad thing too. So but I think you're right in that there's a lot of like change management, to use an enterprisey word, for everybody to kind of decide what they're willing to give up and gain from, whatever, as with any new technology.
I mean,
the clock.
Yeah. You could go through, I mean, the tractor, refrigeration, electricity, like
in that order.
Yeah. I mean, I would start with refrigeration personally. Right. I like being nice and cool and having my food be cool. Yeah. I'm curious, is there, as you kind of look at what you've seen or what you've played with, what is something you wish was true with AI? Meaning like, like if this technology was used at its best, what would that look like?
I wish it was slower. Honestly, wish it was slower. Like sometimes I wish there was like a speed control, because I really do enjoy, at least in Claude Opus, when you type something, it spits back at you a summary of what it thinks you meant or whatever. Yeah. And a few times I've caught stuff, but it spits it out really quick and then collapses it into like I was thinking for 10 seconds or whatever.
The thinking notes. Yeah.
And sometimes I just wish that was all there. It would be overwhelming for a lot of stuff, but, and maybe this is a possibility or a setting, but to kind of think along with it or consider everything. And that's just for my case, like, especially if I'm doing something that I'm going to put into production code and I'm using this as a tool to do it, I want to make sure that what its assumptions align with my assumptions.
Yeah, good. Well, and we're accountable and responsible for that.
Right.
As an agency, as the folks that are basically someone's paying us to build these things. Like, well, we could be like, well, I don't know, the AI did it. It's like, well, you use we're accountable to what it did.
Yeah.
Which
Human
is
in the loop.
Say what?
Human in the loop.
The human. Okay, that's a term that's been thrown around.
The
human
more
in the loop.
that like, I'm not saying AI itself. I'm not desiring anything better, but I think
more of a human in the loop.
A more like intuitively knowing.
Yeah.
Because I think we all kind of know that now, but
right.
I think when you're first picking something up that you might not know it's AI driven, you don't.
Yep.
But like looking at the command line tools, I wish there was a little more human cues. Even maybe with the version control, like we talked about, like knowing hit a button to commit this or branch off. But it's getting there though. Like adding the planning mode and those other things. Yeah. It's starting to add more of that integrations.
So you can see what's going on. You can understand what it's attempting to do. Is helpful. Yeah, I mean, I posted something on LinkedIn as I do because that's part of my role. So did you read it?
No.
Okay, cool.
I don't last time I've done on LinkedIn.
Well,
good.
I get emails. They didn't come in my email.
Your life is better, okay? But I put out there this kind of like, as I dive deeper into vibe coding and into AI tools, and you could list a whole bunch of things that are associated with that, agents, AI tools, LLM models, et cetera, that I think that I've actually even expanded, not just human in the loop, but like experts in the loop. It's like the two of you have the opportunity to do so much more with vibe coding than I could possibly do, because potentially what it's doing.
Yeah.
and you can coach it towards the right direction, or you could pull it back, or you could say, I'm going to just take over and I'm going to take a couple steps forward myself. Whereas someone like me, and the promise to an industry of folks like me that are traditionally non-technical, I might be more technical than many because I've been around it for so long, but is this promise of like, you'll be able to do anything you want. Like the CEO can go, a non-technical CEO could just go write their own software and have what they need, and it'll work and it'll be at production level. But I don't think other than like maybe small one-off little like just administrative little helpers, like a very simple app solution thing, nothing that you could get users onboarded, have it be in a production environment. I haven't seen any of that actually hit like a marketplace successfully and not been hacked. One, so that's a safety piece of it, because there's a lot of people that got hacked because their OpenAI token or their API key was just like in the code.
And some of that stuff is trained on data with like referencing old versions of libraries, like 2-year-old versions of libraries with security vulnerabilities.
Yeah. The number of times I had to tell it, stop using that version. It's like, no, I think you went back. Like, and it would like, oh, no, that's the same, because it was trained.
This is the latest version.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that's helpful. So human in the loop, I think is interesting, and then slowing down a little bit. I think hand in
hand a little bit.
Yeah, I almost regret my answer too, because the planning mode is kind of what I want that. And I don't necessarily want to sit there and wait for it longer, but I want to make sure I know what it's doing.
But that maybe just that it captures. I do. So again, using V0 or Lovable, it does the same thinking, like little, and then it collapses it. And there's many times where I thought, go back. I was I was curious about what you were doing there.
What are you thinking about?
Yeah. What are your dreams, your hopes, your desires? Okay, on a more of a personal note, have you done anything fun or funny or like just silly with AI that you went, was kind of maybe early days or now? It could be a novelty or something. I'm curious with your music background, if you've touched it at all in the music world.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's
it's kind of a taboo.
Yeah.
It's taboo too.
Well, yeah, I don't know. It's just like that is something particular. It's like I do music to learn more about music and myself, and I don't really want another thing in there. But
fix cars with
and it's cheaper.
Good for fixing cars.
Yeah, Dan said the same thing. Yeah,
cool.
He's fixed his van like 3 times.
Yeah, and which I was able to do with just internet and YouTube before, but now it has all this context. You can kind of prompt it once, and you can kind of find your way quicker rather than like searching old auto forums and going through all that. So it's a little easier with that.
Practical, yeah.
Mm-hmm. You can kind of bounce ideas off of it too, with like home projects, or you want to build something.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of fun to vibe on a house project.
Like dream up with what this could be.
Yeah, and it'll give you some good ideas, and you can give it budgets, and you can give it, it's like, oh, I want to DIY this from nothing, and it'll give you ideas and pictures if it wants. So.
My last, so we can land soon, but the thing that I started doing 2 nights ago was we're going to go to Italy this summer. And so I started to ask it, I was like, can you teach me Italian?
Oh.
And it technically is doing a pretty good job. I know enough Spanish, and the Latin languages are close enough that I was like, so that's kind of like this word in Spanish. And then it would go like, yeah, you're absolutely right. And it's the encouragement is really annoying after a while. Yeah. Like at a certain point, it was like, you're doing great. That sounds really good. And it was like every time I would talk to it, it was like, no, that sounds really good. You're doing great. And I was like, please stop encouraging me.
It won't even switch up the note. It'll
say
it's the same exact
thing. Yeah. So
awesome. Yeah.
It's creepy after a while, actually. But I think it's an interesting use case of learning, like going back to the learning context. It is an interesting way to learn.
It's a quick way to learn. And that's, I don't know. This is a whole separate
philosophical conversation.
Yeah, like the labor of everybody who put information on the internet in the first place and made it freely available, and that's the whatever. But also, I think if you're learning a language, it's probably good to talk to a human.
Well, sure.
To know it,
it was purely because I was like, I don't know anybody that actually speaks Italian, so there is that proximity of like, well, at least I'll know how to like ask where the bathroom is. And that's my highest priority. And to be fair, where we're going, everyone speaks English.
Yeah.
So that's a little.
And at a higher level, I think like the the camera mode, having the translation moving. That's crazy.
It's wild.
That's cool.
Breaking down so many barriers for any people group to speak to any other people group is wild. Okay, well, I know we kind of dovetailed off of vibe coding. I would love to have this conversation again in like 3 to 6 months, because I think that things are changing fast enough, and as the tools or the models or our use cases of it, I'm curious to see what will change. I mean, it's changed a lot just sentiment wise in the last year. And I'm still curious, but interesting coming off the holiday break, how much I'm not using it right now. Because I stopped using it over the holidays, as like I was using it so much at the end of the year. Just
dry January.
Yeah, it's my dry January. I'm actually also doing dry January, so maybe this is how I'm coping. Yeah, it's I haven't found myself wanting to go get the instant answer. I've kind of been okay with slowing down a little bit. So we'll see where we balance out as a species going into this.
Yeah, within the next 3 months.
Yeah, 3 months. We'll solve all the world's problems.
You know how we get excited about new tools.
Yeah, the novelty of it.
We love new things.
Yeah.
And so, we'll see.
Okay. Well, you heard it here. The world is changing, and we're all in. And AI music will start coming from Ross Brown here soon.
Keep an ear out.
Yeah, we're going to start a mechanic business, and
we'll just turn
we can fix any cars.
Well, as long as it's before
2017 or 18.
Yeah,
I think it's there. Yeah, we'll train.
So we get a new model.
Yeah. So I'm kind of curious what other people are experiencing, because again, it's a mixed bag from when I talk to technologists across the board, and specifically leaders in these different companies. There's a few folks that have unlimited resources that are doing some interesting things. The big tech companies are doing some interesting things, but kind of your traditional technology teams, I think we've got some time. Thanks for joining me, gents. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having us. Yeah.